You're listening to Catholic Talk Radio in Chicago and the suburbs on Relevant Radio 950 AM.
Good morning. I'm Cardinal Francis George. For the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago will be hosting discussions on issues, people, and associations that touch our lives. Welcome to the Catholic community of faith.
Good morning, Chicago. What good folks you are, spending this part of your morning with Catholic Radio on AM 950. I'm Graziano Marcheski, here with Wayne Majars of Loyola University. I'm of St. Xavier University. They both sound Jesuit, but they're not.
But they're not. No, they are not. No, they are not. No. This is the first time since you've got your new role at Xavier that we're together.
Yeah, it's the first time since forever that we're together.
Yeah.
So
that's because Father Greg kind of has he's got the hold on the schedule, and he's controlling.
He's the man. He's the anchor.
That's right. Do a good job today. We have, in addition to Cardinal George, 4 additional American cardinals in town. So just keep that in mind.
Tell me, how do I not know that?
Tonight is the Catholic University of America Cardinals dinner. So Boston, Houston, Galveston, Washington, and New York all in town today.
Excellent.
For the big dinner tonight at the.
Are you going there?
I am. Yes.
Well, say hello to Cardinal George.
I will say to Cardinal Dolan and Cardinal O'Malley and Cardinal Donardo and Cardinal World too.
Cardinal Dolan, now he's a papabile.
He is a superstar. The guy's amazing on the television and radio. He's just incredible.
And one of the 100 most influential people in the world, according to Time Magazine.
Yeah, he's really good.
So, very happy about that. Well, this morning, we have got a lovely array of people here. Some very young, some not as young, but still young. Wayne and I are the old people.
Notice how he got out of that one, Steve.
Yeah, see. We're going to speak with Daniel Poole and Annie Aguirre, who are the youth coordinators of Run4Unity, and Stephen Schubert and Anna Paula Panzarini, members of the Focolare movement, who are adult collaborators of this event. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get to the Run4Unity, why don't you tell us about the Focolare movement? I know that it came from Europe and from Italy specifically, and that it's related to a wonderful woman named Chiara Lubick. That's about as much as I know. So now that I've exhausted my knowledge, go.
That's right. The Focolare started in Trent, Italy, with a woman, Chiara Lubick, back in 1943. And now it has spread to the whole world. The Focolare is worldwide, and it's been approved by the Catholic Church. It's a Catholic ecclesial movement, but there are people who are of other Christian faiths and other religions who also belong to the Focolare. And it started by Chiara during World War II, and it was during those bombardments where Chiara felt like, the only thing that really lasts is God, and she wanted to give her whole life to God. And it became clear to her, God began to guide her and her first companions, and it became clear that this movement was starting, and the goal of the Focolare is to work for unity based on Jesus' prayer that all may be one.
Anna Paula, how did you get involved in Focolare?
I was back in Brazil. I was a member of the youth group in my parish, and one day the priest invited us for a meeting, to discuss the word of life. And I was like, what is the word of life? And it was actually a sentence from the gospel that, together as a community we were trying to put into practice. And it really struck me how the priest himself, instead of, being in a theological level, he was bringing it down to, to our level as young people, and how he tried to live, how he tried to love his neighbor as himself, by, accepting invitations of people who were offering him, some dish or something that he wasn't really interested, but he went anyways to love that person. And I was thinking, wow, the gospel is actually something that I have to put into practice. And that was how I discovered Chiara Lubick and his message of living the gospel.
Well, Dan and Annie, you folks, as I said, are a lot younger. Why don't you tell us how old you are, Annie?
I'm 17, almost 18.
And what about you, Dan?
I'm 15.
15. And how did you both get involved with Focolare?
Well, I was brought to one of the weekends there was many activities, just like sports, and we had some talks. And I was really struck by the people. Everybody loved one another, and I kept on going to the events, and now I'm here.
Were you brought by your family or by a youth group?
A family friend.
Family friend.
Yeah.
Great. How about you, Annie?
I was a little bit luckier than Daniel. I was actually born into the movement. My mother is Peruvian, and back in Peru, she had been taken by her father. They went as a family to the meetings, and when she came here to America and she met my dad, they settled down and they had continued going to the meetings, starting with my brother, and then when I came along, I was born into the movement and have been part of the Focolare movement for the last 18 years of my life.
Daniel, how has your involvement in Focolare, and we'll talk about the Run for Unity in a little while, but how has that really helped shape your faith? How has that really contributed to your spiritual growth? You're an articulate young man, and it seems as if you've thought about this a lot, and you've really given it a lot of attention and time.
Well, I've realized that your faith isn't about going to church every Sunday. It's about living your faith at school, at home, during sports, loving one another. And like at school, I don't just hang out. I don't just love my friends. I'm with other people from different cultures. I realize their differences, and I just try to love everyone.
Now, Annie, you were in India for a while, right, as part of...
Yes, it was part of a super congress that the Focolare holds every 5 years. It's actually a really big event where the youth from all over the world come together in one place. And normally we would hold it in Italy, but because of Chiara Lubich, the founders of the movement, we had special ties with the Shanti Ashram movement, a Hindu movement in India, and they invited us to come spend our week there to grow together with the youth of the Shanti Ashram movement and to really help build peace in the world, because we spent about 10 days there living together, growing together spiritually, and it was interesting to see the different points of views of people of other faiths and cultures.
Are all the young people in Focolare as articulate and deep as these two young people?
There's a great variety, but there are many like this.
That's just a way of saying I'm really impressed with these young people.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with high school age kids for a long time, and this is music to my ears to hear them be able to speak so well and with such sincerity.
Yes.
Such sincerity. Now, Paula, you mentioned that you're from Brazil.
Yes.
Annie, your family's from Peru, and you grew up in the movement, as you said. So Focolare, as you mentioned, truly is an international experience. Give us a sense of how international. Are you on all the continents?
We are in 182 countries, so we're just about in every country and all the continents. So it is very international, it's the charism of the Focolare to work for unity, to build bridges among.
So if someone joins Focolare, what does that mean? How do you live out that participation?
There are many ways of being involved with the Focolare. That's one of the beautiful things. We try to really be a family. So there are, some people who are very committed and live in community and take, promises and give their whole lives to God. But then there's other ways where people, meet together on occasionally and then live it out in their workplace, or the youth live it out in their schools, and we do different activities together. So there are many ways to be involved.
What's your particular way?
I actually live in the Focolare's men's community over in Berwyn, so I've given my whole life to God.
And Ana Paula, what about you?
Yes, I live in the Focolare community in Hyde Park.
In Hyde Park.
How many communities are there in Chicago?
There are 3. There's 1 men's house and 2 women's houses. So.
That's because women are always more spiritual. They always no, I'm just kidding.
That's a topic for another show. You are listening to Catholic Community of Faith on Relevant Radio 950 AM. It's 9:09 in the morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 9:11 in the morning. Wayne Najars and Graziano Marcheski with you on Catholic Community of Faith. Daniel Poole Pronounce your last name.
Aguirre.
Who's our youth coordinators for the Run for Unity, and Steve Schubert and Anna Paula Panzarini are members of the Focolare movement and adult collaborators of the event. Talking about Focolare, and during the break we said let's kind of focus on the youth, the teens, if you will, and talk about Youth for Unity, which is a piece of Focolare. Stephen, why don't you start us off and maybe tell us how that fits into the Focolare movement?
The Young for Unity are the youth age 9 to 17 who feel a strong desire to work for unity, and they're all over the world, of all cultures and all religions, and who believe in living the golden rule. Love one another. I mean, whatever you do to others, you do it. Treat others the way you want to treat yourself.
Yeah. Our belief is that love can change the world, and our basic goal is universal brotherhood.
Daniel, talk about that as it relates to your peers. There's an incredible amount of pressure on young people today for external forces in the world that aren't necessarily in harmony with what we're talking about today. So talk about how you talk about Focolare, or how you talk about your work in Youth for Unity with some of your friends and peers in school and other places.
Well, in school, there's a lot of different ideas. It's not hardly any people have the same ideas as me, but I don't preach it. I act it out, and then if somebody asks me about it, then I'll tell them my secret.
Okay.
Oh, I like that.
Good answer, Annie. How about you? Same question.
Like Daniel, it's definitely different in school. I actually go to a public school in Chicago, so there are people of different cultures and different religions, and it is a little hard, I'll have to admit, to be the only one in my school in the movement and to try to live against the current. There's so many different pressures and influences all around you, but people really seem to notice when you take the time to act out this love that we are trying to act out every day, to leave these little passages of the gospel, the word of life. They really notice it, and they can tell that you're being very sincere. They notice in the way that you will smile always at them, and you will be gentle with them. And when you do little acts of love that they don't even realize, that helps make their day feel better.
Do you see yourself as examples for others?
Definitely. That is kind of the thing of the young community, is we are brought to be a light to the world. We're supposed to be a message and examples for other people. The best way to have others be like us is to provide examples for them. That is actually what we do when we imitate Christ, is we are being examples of Christ on earth. And so I feel that we definitely are examples for others and that they can follow us.
Just a reminder out there, folks, you're listening to a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old evangelize, proclaim the gospel here. Daniel, where do you go to high school?
Naperville Central.
So you're both at public high schools.
Yes.
And you couldn't get a better education if you'd been in a Catholic school your whole life. So what this shows me is, you mentioned that the Focolare is an ecclesial movement. And there have been a good number of them since the 40s and 50s. The 20th century was kind of fertile for that kind of lay initiative. And it seems that all of those that sprang up have just done an incredibly effective job in perduring, in continuing to exist. They haven't phased out. They haven't, lost their energy. In fact, they've seemed to just grow. They've grown throughout the world, and they touch people at such deep, deep places. Daniel used the word secret. What's the secret?